What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Miss Teen Crypto Show. I'm your host, Randi Hipper, back at it today with an amazing guest. Hi, everyone in the chat. It is so nice to see you. If you guys are feeling good, please answer that poll and also smash the likes, subscribe, and share out today's stream with your friends so more people can hang out with today's guest. We got some great conversation cooked up for today. Again, hi to everyone in the chat. I'm going to waste no time. I want to say hello to the wolf of all streets, Scott Melker. Welcome.
What's up? I'm feeling zesty.
Oh, as you should. You're one of the zestiest people out there, Scott. I gotta admit, we've been friends for so long now, and you actually haven't been on the show since March of 2022. And in crypto, that's like 7 years ago. So how have you been?
I've been great. I can't imagine what horrible predictions I made that didn't come true in March of 2022. But yeah, good. It's really good to be here. I think you've been on my show 3 or 4 times since then, though. So we've kept up quite a bit.
Of course. And then we saw each other at Bitcoin 2022. We did an IRL interview. You even were you're basically the only person to ever snag my dad in an interview as well.
That was awesome.
So yeah, that was a non-fungible interview. That was an NFI right there. So friends, you should go head over to Scott's channel if you haven't subscribed already and make sure you check out that interview because it was really great. It was so heartfelt. It was so genuine, and I really did love it. And I love watching you, man. If you want to give a brief, who is Scott Melker and when did you get in crypto, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I got into crypto in 2016. I had a kind of a long music career as a DJ, a music producer, and then my daughter was born, and I had to kind of retire from the DJ life. And I'd always been a trader, and I just kind of luckily found crypto through a bunch of other DJs that were trading it. I totally, as I've said many times, I showed up and was all about trading and making dollars. It had nothing to do with any of the use case of crypto or the importance of Bitcoin. And after, months and months and years of trading it, that's when I really, I think, got orange pilled, so to speak, and became super passionate about the asset class and the newsletter and podcast and all those things. So I've really been here since 2016. The first year I was pretty much just trading. And then, I really went down the rabbit hole. And I think, once you start tumbling down, there's really no end.
Yeah. And, speaking of the rabbit hole, if you're coming into crypto right now, it's a whirlwind of just what is going on because, even Bitcoin 2022 time, we were all hanging out. Things weren't that bad. The market wasn't great, but things weren't that bad. We were chilling. And then all of a sudden, liquidations, chapter 11s. What is absolutely going on? Compared to when you first came in crypto, have you ever seen this much drama in the space?
I haven't seen this much drama anywhere in any space, right? I mean, it's really crazy and something I would have never predicted. And like you said, I mean, it was March or April, right? When we did Bitcoin 2020, that was really just right a couple months before Luna and before everything really started to go down. And listen, when Luna collapsed, I think it was pretty clear there was going to be some contagion, but even I never imagined it would be as bad as it was. But I think it's really important. And it has to be said every time we bring up how rough 22 was and all the things that collapsed, that none of that had to do with crypto, right? That was just like centralized platforms run by greedy people who used poor risk management, right? Yeah. And then in some case, just outright fraud, right? Which I think is the case of SBF, obviously. But otherwise, it had nothing to do with DeFi or with Bitcoin as an asset or with the technology underlying that's obviously going to eat the world. And so as sort of disheartening as 2022 was because it was, people lost so much money on these platforms, myself included, and just because I think people are disillusioned and lost faith, it's important to remember that during these bear markets is actually when all the compelling use cases are built for the next bull market. And there's so many incredible things being built that, we're just sort of waiting for a price to go up so that everybody can get excited about it again.
Exactly. The liquidity crunch in this space was absolutely real. And it just, for a while, it was just one after the other and Bitcoin price hammered down one after the other. It was just so sad. I mean, how did you keep up, especially with trading? Because I know you do trading. How did you keep up with everything during this time? And how did you keep the sentiment up, especially within your community? Because you have quite a big one.
To be honest, it's really hard. And some days, you probably know the feeling. Some days it was just kind of embarrassing to show up and be a cheerleader when things were on fire. It's like being the little meme of the little dog or whatever, this is fine and everything's on fire around you. That's sort of how it felt to be a crypto YouTubing and doing podcasts during that time. But for me, like having the podcast, especially even more than any of my other content, like I was constantly talking to these brilliant people who are building these amazing things. So it was easy for me personally because I was given sort of access to all this information and these people who blow your mind on a day-to-day basis. That price sort of faded into the background, and it was still easy for me to focus on all the things that were being built and the incredible potential of the space. But to be honest, I mean, you know, I don't know what your numbers are like, but I look at across all of it and everyone's down like 80% from the peak of the bull market on people watching. And I watch my sponsors like going out of business and breaking contracts. Hard to run a business through all of this, as I'm sure you know. It's just, it was a very difficult time, but I've never lost the faith that it was going to go back up, even as I was somewhat embarrassed by all the things that were happening. Like, it's not that comfortable to get calls from people who are like, I was on Voyager, man. You are right. And, you know, and you know that like, you know, it's not fun, but, but I think that most of the negative is behind us. I really do think that. And even any future contagion, I think, is somewhat expected and priced in. I think we got to the point where people just, nothing would surprise anyone anymore. I mean, listen, Genesis just filed bankruptcy and Bitcoin price didn't move.
Exactly.
An inch, right? When bad news ceases to be bad news, it's usually a good sign that things are starting to turn around.
Exactly. This kind of gives me like, you know, end of 2020, early 2021 vibes where everything is just priced in. Everyone's sick of all the bad news. People don't want to hear any bad news anymore. They don't care. We're just waiting for positivity. And honestly, I don't think we could go with mainstream adoption. We can't go mainstream if we still had all these bad actors with all these horrible business practices in this space. And I'm happy they all got washed out. We needed that. We need a nice cleanse.
It sucks that people had to go down with them, unfortunately. But like, imagine if SBF had made it another 6 months or another 3 years. Because even speaking of Voyager, which I mentioned, FTX was about to get all of Voyager's assets.
True.
Right? FTX was the buyer for Voyager. So imagine, like, as bad as Chapter 11 is for Voyager creditors, imagine if all of their assets had been thrown over to FTX a week before FTX went bankrupt, and then you had a double Chapter 11 bankruptcy to deal with. So as horrible as it was, you're absolutely right that the faster it got cleansed and we got rid of those people, the better. And if there's others, we need them to go too.
Yeah, and once FTX went down, I mean, 3 Arrows Capital kind of started it, but then once FTX went down, you saw how much money was literally commingled in this space. Were you aware, or did you have any idea of how bad all of this money tangled up was? Because we're seeing this through Genesis, FTX, all this craziness. It's all connected.
No, it's like it's crazy. And listen, I knew that everybody, I guess, was sort of like, I would have at the time said supporting one another, right? Like it was an ecosystem and they were investing in one another and all of that. But it turns out it was just like a big washing machine of sending money back. I mean, when you look at BlockFi, like BlockFi got a bailout from FTX, right? The $400 million credit facility or whatever it is. But then you looked on BlockFi's books when they filed bankruptcy, and they basically took that money and loaned it to Alameda for interest. So FTX gives them money. They give money to Alameda. Alameda like loses it. It's just crazy. It's like
they just buy real estate with that.
But like, why? Like, it's not even it's a fake bailout, right? They just sent the money back to the same company to earn a yield as a loan, so that they could try to give their customers yield. It's disgusting, man. It's really nonsensical. It's very disheartening. But I think, like I said, the worst is behind us.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Cross my fingers.
Yes, I'm happy about it. I do, you know, I always expect someone to come out with the woodworks and like someone be exposed, because that's what crypto's, you know, kind of about. Everyone filters out each other, even, you know, in the space where maybe someone big tries to do a drop and then it doesn't work because the community doesn't like it. You know, the community is everything. And talking about community, have you seen the community sentiment kind of turn around in the past couple months? Because a lot of people were calling 10K. Everyone was very bearish, and all of a sudden this pop in Bitcoin happens. People are shocked. What do you think?
People go with price. I mean, sentiment follows price. It doesn't lead it, unfortunately, right? Like you counter trade the sentiment at the bottom and the top, and then it's probably over when everybody all of a sudden jumps on board. Like if the super bears, like if Jim Cramer all of a sudden is like buy crypto, it's over.
we're going down.
Or like if the super bears and haters all of a sudden get on board for this ride, and when you start hearing Listen, 10,000, it's possible. I'm not going to say that it's not possible. I wouldn't say it's plausible, but I would say it's possible. But like when you start hearing 3,000 and 5,000 and zero, when you're down like 75% and people want another 75%, it's usually a signal that maybe like people are euphoric just in the other way, right? Like bearish euphoria and extreme fear. I don't think price is going to 10,000, by the way. I just think it's possible. I don't, listen, I don't think Binance is in any risk. I think they just got the stress test of the century and survived it. Yes. But like if a Binance went down or a Coinbase or something, I think we could see a pretty big, but I don't see that happening. And honestly, even if it does happen, we erased the FTX drop entirely in 2 months, right? I'm looking over here. FTX, the week before the drop, the top for Bitcoin was 21,473. We're at 23,000 right now.
Yes, we did fully recover. You see that nice little... Yeah.
And people said FTX was the end of crypto, right? No, it couldn't get worse. Sam Bankman-Fried, and price is just right back where it was.
Just shows Bitcoin is stronger than people think. Really?
Brilliant, man. Yeah, nothing can... it's unstoppable. I mean, nothing can stop Bitcoin. It can just slow it down. As far as price... We haven't slowed down the hash rate. We haven't slowed down like the adoption. All the metrics on chain continue to increase regardless of price. Bad for miners, but just holds price down for a while, which is great for anyone who's trying to accumulate.
Of course. And, I think a lot of FUD has been spread around. I mean, of course, Binance, too, because when you were listening to the FTX hearings, they broke up Binance, like out of nowhere. This should have been about SBF and FTX, not crypto and Binance, but that's what they turned it into. And a bunch of all these regulators and these people in the government were like, crypto's bad. And I know around that time you went on, I think it was Yahoo Finance or something like that. And you expressed some passion there, Scott. Why was there so much passion there? Why, what lit your fire in that moment?
Well, it was Yahoo Finance, and they had just had the committee hearings. And then I had no idea when I signed on that the guest before me was going to be Brad Sherman, the congressman from California, who is literally the only person that the Blockchain Association, whoever it is, gave a rating of 0 in Congress for their potential with crypto. He's the biggest hater. That's the Cobra coin, 8 mongoose coin meme guy, right? And so he comes on right before me, and they're like, you might want to watch him because we're going to ask you about it. And he just did all of his talking points about how it needs to be banned, and it's a fake asset class, and the whole thing, right? And so they said, what do you think? Oh, he called it, what was it, a den of snakes, right? And he said
something like that,
we think it's the Garden of Eden, and just really crypto is the snakes in the garden, and SBF isn't the snake. The whole industry is the snakes. Yeah, so I kind of lost my proverbial SHIT. And I went bananas. I think the first thing I said was basically just insults all of Congress. I said, for him to call it a garden of snakes is kind of rich when Congress is the garden of snakes. I could hear my mom cringing in the back. Oh, my son, he's insulted all the Congress people. But it's true, so, and it gave me the opportunity to really repeatedly differentiate the fraud of SBF from the asset class, which is what I obviously said to you right at the beginning of this show. And so I'm glad that I got the chance to sort of go on after him, and it wasn't, I guess, the other way around, although he wouldn't have known how to respond because he was just reading a piece of paper with talking points from his aides, right? He knows nothing about this asset class, and none of them do. They haven't done the work. But and that was really right in the depths of the bottom. I mean, that had to be at the middle of November, within a week of the FTX collapse. And that was a really hard time to defend this space.
Yeah, it really was. And I think even Cynthia Loomis said it correctly during those times. And even you were mentioning it before. This wasn't a crypto issue. Bitcoin still works. The blockchain still works. The whole premise of, the whole fundamental of crypto is still here. This was fraud. This was bad business practices where it wasn't even an exchange at that point. It was just a fraudulent business. It wasn't a legit exchange.
Imagine Bernie Madoff getting arrested and viewing that as an indictment on the entire financial system. Nobody saw it that way. Nobody's we can't do stocks and have investors anymore because of Bernie Madoff. It's just disingenuous to pretend it's because of crypto. A fraud is a fraud. right? And it's people have been getting scammed since the beginning of time. They didn't need a new technology to do it, right? And so SPF, unfortunately, was a massive fraud and still seems to like not think he was. I don't know if he's like.
If you read his Substack, no, he's not.
Dude, he's bananas. I don't know if he's trying to like plead insanity. I don't really get what's going on here, or if he's so narcissistic that he actually believes he did nothing wrong and it was just sort of like, oopsie, you know, like the little fake South Park thing they did of him. Sorry.
That was hilarious.
So good.
I loved it.
I don't really know, but he really seems to think it was like a rounding error or something. Like my spreadsheet was wrong. And like literally customer deposits weren't even going into FTX. They were going into Alameda. Like how do you think that's okay?
It made no sense.
It's a fraud. The guy's a fraud.
Yeah, it made no sense. And then he was saying he had no information. I know nothing. And then in his Substack, he's putting all of these like numbers that he had, and FTXUS is still solvent. If that's the case, then why can't people get their money back?
I mean,
I don't get it. I'm just
his
so
lawyers.
confused.
Maybe his lawyers love it because he's like just creating more billable hours and work for them. But like, it's like I did fraud. Now let me lay out for you in an article how I did the fraud.
It's so wild.
It's like the most incriminating. I'm not sure if this is real or if he's literally just trying to look insane. But he's nuts. Maybe this is what happens when you lose your drugs. You know.
I don't know, man. I really don't. And I kind of just feel for him in the sense that he's in this like some sort of euphoria, like he's sitting home playing League of Legends. And it surprised me that he did actually get off that easy, considering that he has some time to kill. You know, we don't know what his sentencing is actually going to turn out like. And honestly, people that did very much less got imprisoned. You know,
yeah,
and
I mean,
it's just
the Tornado Cash guy is like over in prison in Europe, you know, like for code. But listen, SBF's a trader, and this is the trade of his life, right? He just bought himself at least a year of freedom.
Yeah.
Which maybe he wouldn't have had. I mean, he was sitting in like a rat-infested jail cell in the Bahamas, and now he's at his parents' house hanging out, having visitors, and playing video games and writing long-form Medium posts. I don't get it, man.
He was offering to help regulators.
Why does this guy get to talk to the public right now?
Yeah.
How does he have a forum to like express his opinions at this moment?
It's a beautiful thing called like, you know, money in the internet. Like with those two things. I
guess we should cheer the fact that that like we have the platforms that allow it because, you know, I guess free speech and he hasn't been convicted yet. But my God, I wish he would just shut up. He's not helping any of us.
Yeah, and then Suzu from 3 Hours Capital, they wanted to make GTX or something. Did you?
I'm dying.
Did you hear about that?
Like, first of all, GTX is just a letter off FTX, and it's also just like a letter off GOX, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Just replace the T with O, and you've got GOX. So they like double trolled us with the name, and so Suzu and Kyle, like all these billionaires who were disgraced, have seen like SBF's downfall as an opportunity for like some sort of weird like Backstreet Boys 30-year redemption tour. And I'm not having it, right? And it pisses me off. Suzu is like literally like tweeting about going surfing and life lessons learned, and now how he's like converted to Islam or something, but he's also a monk, and he watched someone die and didn't help them, and the lessons that he learned from watching someone drown, like it's bananas. And then you've got Kyle, who's literally sharing his like third grade level paintings on Twitter, and I've learned to paint and to forgive myself. Well, nobody else has forgiven you, so just keep your paintings to yourself. And now they partner with CoinFlex, which are the guys who like gave the huge loan to Roger Ver, who didn't pay it back. And CoinFlex is insolvent, and people can't withdraw. And together they're going to pretend they owe nobody money and try to raise more money for a different business. Oh, and what is that business? It's trading claims in bankruptcy. All bankruptcies caused by 3 Arrows Capital. It's like chat GPT, write me an insane story about crypto billionaires. You know, like it could be a Hollywood film if it wasn't real, right? That somebody made up as the most absurd thing. All of these guys need to go away. They need to get washed out. I'm not saying they all need to go to jail. I don't know if they're criminals or not, but they need to disappear from crypto. And if we let them back in, we will reap what we sow. And I really hope that doesn't happen. But these guys are just back on Twitter, just hanging out, arguing. billionaire to billionaire. You got Cameron Winklevoss arguing with Barry Silbert. Well, billions of dollars of real people's money are on the line. I don't know, man. Just text the guy.
Just text the guy.
Text him. Send him a WhatsApp.
Yeah, BitBoy tried to text him, and that didn't go over too well.
I didn't see that. Did he?
Yeah.
Did he try to text Barry or Sam or who?
No, he tried to text. He texted SBF while he was in the Bahamas, and SBF said he would agree to an interview in 2 weeks and rugged the kid because right after they had that text conversation, then SBF went on his whole press tour and then went to court and. Poor Ben got beat. But
Ben still came out. Yeah, that was Ben's redemption tour, and it was fun to see.
He did something that I think a lot of people wouldn't have done, and something that needed to be seen, where people, of that stature are like, hey, okay, the people, if they want answers, they're going to go get it. We've even seen that in Davos. Independent journalism is so big right now, and I absolutely love that. And you've been doing a great job of interviewing people. You go everywhere, you interview everyone, and how do you feel that, about independent journalism right now? How do you feel you've discovered stuff just by kind of actually talking to people, being that you have great access to amazing minds in the space?
Yeah, I think it's with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Love that.
We know that the mainstream media is a joke. I think we've all accepted that, right? That it's just fear mongering and very little of what is reported is news. They break news and then they never apologize when they're wrong. They just move on as if it never happened. But then, it's a pendulum, and you get to the other pole and we go on the complete bananas conspiracy theories that are also being reported as news. And the truth is always, I think, somewhere in the middle of both of those. So I try to be pragmatic. I try to ask realistic questions and give people a voice, but also try to step in if something just sounds absolutely nuts. I mean, there is something to say for the fact that a lot of conspiracy theories have, sort of the meme, if you think something's a conspiracy theory, just wait 6 months, right? Yeah. So that more so than ever in history, that has seemed to be the case of late, but that doesn't mean that the earth is flat or that every conspiracy theory is true either. Yeah. And so like I said, with great power comes great responsibility. I think that if you're going to try to be an independent journalist and create a channel, then you have a responsibility at least to attempt to vet. And listen, all of us occasionally get sucked into reporting something that ends up being fake.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it just happens because you see it on 10 mainstream media channels. My job, my producer sends me a thing. I talk about the news, and then that story a month later, you find out it's fake, and there's no taking it back, right?
No.
Write a little apology. So I think it's hard to vet what's real and what's fake, but you just do your best independently, because I do think that, as crazy it is, the big YouTubers, much bigger than myself, have much bigger audiences than CNN or Fox.
Absolutely, yes.
They're literally you look at the ratings of a average show on an afternoon on CNN, it might have a couple 100,000, which would be big for them, nationwide. And then you go on to YouTube and there's guys who are getting 1 million every day.
Yep.
They have a much bigger voice. And so I think that they just have to be careful how they use it. But there's some people out there doing great work.
There are people doing great work out here, especially in crypto. Like I said, people investigate their own stuff here. If someone's doing something wrong, you bet there will be a thread about it. Sometimes it's a little too far because sometimes it's an unjust thread. But a lot of the time,
sometimes they're fake. That's the problem. Exposes something doesn't mean it's true.
Exactly. You have to do your own research.
Or they found a kernel of something and they extrapolated all of this information from it that's just completely false. And people really, you can end someone's career life. You can really ruin somebody's life with it. And so you just have to be really, really careful.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Take everything with a grain of salt, especially in crypto. People love to nitpick others for doing certain things or buying something or selling something. Who cares, bro? Everyone could do their own thing. That's what this whole space is about. If you want to buy something, you buy. If you want to sell it, you sell it. It's just ridiculous how other people try to say hey, here's my opinion on what you're buying and what you're doing. Hey, dude, I didn't ask you. I'm being my own bank. I'm being in control of my wealth. If I want to sell something, I'm gonna do it. I'm
allowed to make mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop trying to stop me. I can lose my money as I see fit.
Exactly. You could go bet your whole life in sports betting, and if you lose, you lose. Oh boy! But God forbid you sell a token. It's a crime. Oh no!
No, nobody ever went broke taking profit. right? So
period. Scott, go off. And speaking of profits, how do you feel about the charts? I know a lot of people are in profit because they're the Bitcoin pump. They're happy about it. How have you been? How are the charts looking for you?
I can let me pull a thing up or two. I got some charts for
you. You can illustrate for us. Smash the likes, Pam. Smash those likes. Share love.
Can you see? Can you see what I got going on here?
That's beautiful.
This is the Bitcoin. So this is the Bitcoin daily chart. Now, interestingly, so a lot of people. Let's first say that charting is an art, not a science. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody has a different indicator. Everyone has a different strategy, and I utilize quite a few of them. What I've found the most interesting right now with Bitcoin is that this red line is the 200-day moving average, right? Blue one is the 50. If you notice, we hadn't even touched the 200-day moving average in 291 days.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so, and it took until December of 21. We all know what happened in December of 21, right? That's when it all died. We saw that day where it went from 50 to like 42 in a day. So the 200 moving average, a lot of people view as the trend. We only touched it once in that entire period, and that was 291 days ago. And we broke it on a major increase in volume like 12 days ago. And so I was looking, had drawn this blue thing. I said, we should get a retest of that as support. That's about 19,600. But then I was thinking about it. We didn't get a retest of this as resistance for, hundreds of days. And then it took hundreds of days to come back to it. So once you've broken that, we really could see things going higher and higher. Now, I do think that this is majorly overbought. This is RSI on the bottom, which is an indicator that I just occasionally use to get a general sentiment of whether the market is overbought or oversold. And also has bearish divergence, meaning that the indicator has made a lower high while price has made a higher high. That's usually a sign that we're going to get some retracement. So I am looking for some sort of drop soon. But to me, that's not like we short it and we go to new lows. It's like enjoy the dip and buy it before we go higher, right? Yeah. Because I really think that we should, on this move, hit 25, which is that next red line there, and then eventually maybe even 28, 30. Now, would it surprise me if we hit 30 and then went down to like 17 or 18 and really trolled people? No, because this is Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
But, clicking through, I can tell you, like, this is the weekly chart. This is one of the biggest weekly up candles. That was a 25% move in 1 week, right? That usually doesn't just happen. That usually means that we're seeing a new trend. And you can see above here at 25, that's the 50 and 200 MA, which we haven't even touched yet. So maybe we get up to that area. And I just clicked past this chart. This chart's awesome. This is something
I like
I'd seen the general idea and I dug into it. So this is all the Bitcoin 4-year cycles, basically, the halving cycles. And you can see we had the first halving here. The bottom was when weekly RSI, which is what this is, hit oversold. See right there where it goes from the blue to the white?
Yes.
And then that was the bottom, and we saw a major pump all the way to the next halving, right? Then the next bottom after that halving was when in 2017, we went all the way up to 20. We came down to like 3,000. That's when RSI hit oversold. That was the second time in history, right? Now we have halving 3, and the third time in history, Bitcoin went oversold on the weekly RSI when we hit about 17,000. That was the bottom before FTX, remember? And then we kind of went sideways for months.
Yes.
But this formed bullish divergence. So even when we got the FTX drop, RSI never even came back down to oversold. That's usually a sign of buying strength. I think this would have been the bottom if not for FTX. But we've retraced all of that. So like if you're looking at the next halving cycle, we should be kind of sideways and then up into a bull market into the next halving, or at least, and then we get the next massive move out of the next halving. But in theory, if you believe in the 4-year cycles, and I was saying this even without noticing the RSI, like November, December was just the right amount of time to be at the bottom of that cycle. And that's when we were bottoming. So I really think all evidence is that we have either bottomed or like, even if we go a little lower at some point, it'll just be a quick thing like we talked about, sort of like this FTX thing, and we go up. But everything to me says buy the dip at this point when we get it, but we should get it sooner than later, in my opinion. That's basically it.
So who do you think will win, Scott? The Bulls or the Bears?
Bulls always win. That's the beauty of markets. No, and it's true. When have bears ever won over any meaningful period of time?
True.
The thing about being bearish is that you can be a bull, you can be bullish, a bullish idiot, like irrationally bullish. If you wait long enough, you'll be right. If you're rationally bearish, you will get absolutely crushed because markets always trend up and to the right, right? I mean, you look at the Dow Jones over time, it's literally just like straight up to the right. Even the Great Depression and the Great Recession and all of COVID, they're just little dips on this massive move up and to the right, largely because of inflation, of course. Yeah. But that's a topic for a different time. But Bitcoin is, I just showed you the chart of Bitcoin. It's literally nothing but up to the right. That chart started at like $1, right? Yep. We're sitting at 23 and even the move to 69 looks like a blip on that chart because $1 to where we are now is such a bigger move than 69 down to this point. Exactly. Right. And so bears have to have perfect timing. You have to be bearish only during that bear market, but you eventually have to switch or you get crushed because you never see those prices again. Markets just keep making higher lows. So bulls will win. I just can't tell you if they'll win this week, this month, or this year.
Well, that's beautiful. I think bulls will always win, especially with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is inevitable, my friends. Do not forget that. Scott, you're amazing. I really do love you. I think you're an amazing guy. I think you're incredibly smart. And, you just know what's up. And you take a level-headed approach to almost everything. You just have this calm mindset. You ask all the good questions. You look at the chart. You take in all the information. So I do appreciate you hanging out with me again, taking this time out, and just dropping absolute alpha. And, I just would love if you could share where everyone could find you and a message. Speak from the heart. It could be about anything. People are talking about In-N-Out Burger in the chat. You can talk about In-N-Out. You can talk about your favorite food.
I love In-N-Out Burger.
I love In-N-Out. It's my favorite. Double, please.
And I'm an East Coast. I'm East Coast. So like the first thing I do when I hit the ground in like Vegas or LA or anything is literally go to In-N-Out. And usually there's one by the airport in LA. So I hit it on the way out of town every single time as well.
Right outside of LAX. You pull right out of there. Yep.
Yeah, so you know about that. You can find me at Scott Melker on Twitter. Everything else is linked there, podcast, newsletter, and YouTube, of course. As far as heartfelt, I think the last message that we had was the one that matters, right? Is that like bulls always win. All you have to do is just chill and wait and not do anything stupid and you will win. Like just don't do anything dumb. Don't get in your own way. This is inevitable.
Yep. Thank you so much. You're amazing, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming. All those links for Scott are in the live chat and then in the description. Please give him a freaking follow. Show him love and show the stream some love. Make sure to smash the likes, subscribe, share this out with friends, and comment after this is over if you enjoyed the show and how you feel about bulls versus bears. Thank you guys so much for coming. I will be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern for the Daily Zest. Do not forget, hit that bell button, friends. Have a great day. Thank you again, Scott. And as always, stay zesty.
You.
Peace.
Bye.